Today we're going to talk about subtracting integers, but first let's review how to add integers. You may remember that in order to add integers, you need to first of all identify whether or not you are adding two numbers that have the same sign or whether or not you're adding two numbers that have different signs. For example, here we have the same sign for 25 plus 3 since they're both positive, and negative 13 plus negative 7. In that example, both numbers have negatives. So in our first example, we're going to add and keep the sign of both of them. So we have positives plus positives, which gives more positives. So what do you think that negative 13 plus negative 7 equals? If you said negative 20, you are correct. Negatives plus more negatives gives you a whole bunch of negatives. So our rule is add your numbers and keep the sign whenever you're working with same signs. So let's move on to different signs and review how to add different signs. So with different signs, remember that we're going to be canceling positives and negatives. So anytime you have a positive and a negative, they cancel each other. So for example, with negative 4 plus 8, and we're going to add the negative 4 to the positive 8, so we cancel 4 negatives with 4 of the positives, and we're left with 4 positives. In other words, with our rule, we subtract the numbers. 8 minus 4 is 4, and we keep the sign of whichever we have the most of, since that's what we're left with after canceling. We're left with positives in number 1. In number 2, we have 5 plus negative 3. We're going to cancel these 3 negatives with 3 positives in the 5, and we'll be left with 2 positives. So 5 minus 3 is 2, and we have more positives than negatives. In our third example, 20 plus negative 30, these 20 positives are going to cancel 20 of those negatives, and we'll be left with 10 negatives. 30 minus 20 equals 10, and we have more negatives than positives. Now that we've reviewed how to add integers, we're going to talk about subtracting integers. You may remember being taught phrases like keep, change opposite, or add the opposite. Because with subtraction, you cannot actually subtract integers. You have to change all subtraction to addition. And the way you do that is you keep the first number the same. In other words, you don't change the sign of the first number. So if I have negative 5 minus 6, I'm going to keep that negative 5 as a negative 5. Then we're going to change the subtraction to addition. So that subtraction becomes addition. And we're going to change the sign of the number following the subtraction sign to its opposite. So since this is a positive 6 that's being subtracted, we're going to change it to a negative 6. So we keep the negative 5, change subtraction to addition, and change that positive 6 to its opposite, which is a negative 6. So you can think of that as keep, change, opposite, or add the opposite, however you want to think about it. The important thing to remember is we never subtract integers, we only add. So I will expect you to change all subtraction to addition and show me those steps. So I'm going to show you number 1, and then I'd like you to pause the video and complete 2, 3, 4, and 5. Make sure that you show me the step where you rewrite the problem with addition. So with 6 minus 8, I'm going to change this to keep, change, opposite. Keep my 6, change subtraction to addition. Since my 8 is positive, I'm going to make it a negative. Keep, change, opposite. Now I use my addition rules. So since I have 6 positives and I have 8 negatives, I'm going to cancel these 6 positives with 6 of the 8 negatives, and that will leave me with 2 negatives. So my answer is going to be negative 2, or 8 minus 6 is 2, and I have more negatives than positives. Now in changing these, you're welcome to go to the problem itself and just do your changing within the problem instead of rewriting it, but I do need to see where you changed subtraction to addition. So pause the video and try 2, 3, 4, and 5, making sure to show those steps. Now that you've tried 2, 3, 4, and 5, I'm going to run through these with you. We should have changed 5 minus negative 2 to keep, change, opposite. So this is actually 5 plus 2, which is 7. Number 3, negative 3 minus negative 4 becomes keep, negative 3, change to addition, and then opposite, positive 4. So this is actually negative 3 plus 4, which is positive 1. Number 4, negative 2 minus 1 becomes negative 2 plus negative 1. So that's actually negative 2 plus negative 1, which is negative 3. For number 5, 11 minus 19 becomes 11 plus negative 19, which equals negative 8. Again, as far as showing me steps, you're welcome to just change the problem right there and write negative 8. I just am writing it all out so that it's very clear.